What's up YouTube? This is Danny Draghi with a Magic Stone Guide to MIR4. After watching this video, you too will become a Magic Stone Master just like Joseph Smith. First, I'm going to explain which stones do what, and then I'm going to explain the difference between rarities before I go over various builds. Note that much of this information is highly subjective. I have not had a chance to play very much with all classes of the game, so none of this info will be class specific, but instead focus on excelling in the specific area of the game that you are facing in the moment. Wait, hang on. I lost the contact. Nobody move. Wait. It's gotta be around here somewhere. I said don't move, you're gonna step on it. Does anyone have a flashlight? Oh, there it is. Finally, I will go over all the best ways to obtain magic stones, and then I will test your knowledge by showing you various stones and asking you to grade them accurately based upon the buffs they provide. After watching this guide, don't be surprised if people start calling you Stone Cold Steve Austin in this bitch. There are 7 types of magic stone to choose from that come in uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary form. Each magic stone gives a guaranteed buff based on its color, as well as additional random buffs depending on its rarity. For example, an uncommon stone will give you a second random buff, while an epic stone will give you more of its primary stat as well as 3 random buffs, making it much stronger by comparison. I will not be referring to these stones by their given name, as I'm pretty sure WeMade uses a random name generator for everything in the game. Will the real Millennium Fruit please stand up? And this could lead to issues with different translations, so instead I will call each stone by their color, and I will apologize to my colorblind subscribers in advance. These colors of the stones are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, which is also known as cooler blue, and violet. If you have trouble remembering all of these stones, just remember what my 7th grade science teacher taught me. Roy G. Biv. He must have been a total nerd when it comes to Legend of Mir. The primary attributes that are dependent on the color have a locked value depending on the stone's rarity. So a rare violet stone, for example, will always give 3% monster damage in the first buff, while the extra 2 buffs will be random stats and random values. This means that you could have 2 of the same color rare stones and the same 3 buffs, but one stone can be more powerful than the other if the second and third buffs are greater. Red stone's primary attribute is extra health, providing 500, 750, 1250, or 2250 health depending on the rarity. Orange, which is the rarest stone, is extra experience, coming in at 1.2%, 1.8%, 3%, and 5.4%. Yellow is extra attack damage, and this is at 1.4%, 2.2%, 3.7%, and 6.7%. Green is reduced monster damage with 2%, 3%, 5%, and 9%. Blue are extra mana points, providing 120, 180, 310, or 560. Indigo is extra crit damage at 6%, 9%, 15%, and finally 27%. Violet is extra monster damage starting at 2%, 3%, 5%, and 9%, just like the green stones, only it's extra damage to monsters instead of reducing damage from monsters. You could look at the red and green stones as being defensive, orange as utility, and the rest as offensive if you wanted to focus on a pure damage or durability build. To get the most out of your stones though, you would want the additional buffs granted to also be offensive or defensive to match the primary attribute. When comparing stones of the same color, the best stones usually have primary stats reproduced in the secondary stat. such as this epic redstone with 1250 health and an additional 700 HP along with the third defensive buff or offensive buff. This stone is above average for a defensive build, but would be perfect if the crit was replaced with another defensive stat instead. Before we get into builds, let's talk quickly about transitioning. Once you start to gain new stones from the next highest rarity, it is a good idea to stop being picky about the stones and equip every single stone that you get immediately. Even if they are not the stones that you want, you will gain much more of an advantage by having the higher rarity stone than one that is a lower tier. Once you start to get more stones of that tier than you can equip at one time, you can start creating specialty builds in order to excel in specific areas. When combining uncommon stones, you'll have a 10% chance to upgrade it to a rare, which will take about 31 stones on average. If you are combining rare stones, there's a 7% chance to create an epic, which is nearly 1 out of every 42 stones. When combining epic stones, there's a 5% chance to make a legendary, which is about 1 out of every 61 stones. Keep in mind that when combining rare or higher stones, you will also be granted a higher tier stone after every 25 attempts from the Mystic Incense Burner. You can't see the progress on this if you are looking at all possible combinations or just at uncommon stones. So you have to select rare or epic from the option on the left hand side of the screen. It will take about 75 to 80 stones combined to fill up this incense burner depending on your RNG. Remember that even if you don't get an upgraded stone from combining, the stone that is produced could be better than some of the stones you are currently using, so it's always best to check the stats before using them to combine again. Early on, you'll be able to equip 3 stones at one time. You'll unlock additional slots as you increase the level of your Tower of Quintessence. You will unlock additional slots as you increase the level of your Tower of Quintessence in the conquest. You will unlock additional levels as you increase the level of your Tower of Quintessence in the conquest menu at levels 2, 6, and 10, bringing the total stones allowed to be used at one time up to 6. Not only will this increase your overall power, but it will also increase the flexibility of your unique stone builds. Since we already covered the primary stat boost, let's go over all of the possible secondary benefits. Keep in mind, while these are random and their values are random, just like enchantments, they will never exceed the strength of the primary stat by themselves. Once you get to epic stones and beyond, the secondary buffs, when combined, will be of greater importance than the primary stat. So you may end up with a green epic stone that you don't really like, but the other 3 buffs alone are better than any other stone that you have. For offensive builds, we have mana points, accuracy, crit damage, bash damage, skill damage, PvP damage, monster damage, boss damage, and all attack damage. For defensive stats, we have health, evade, crit evade, bash reduction, skill reduction, PvP reduction, monster reduction, boss reduction, and attack reduction. It's possible to get amazing stones for affordable prices in the market sometimes. Since you know exactly what stats you are buying, this will take some of the RNG out of it as well. I often see people listing stones that are of very high value at the same price of stones with terrible stats because they are not aware of how to compare the stones and deduce their relative value. One can only assume they haven't seen this guide yet, which makes sense because it just came out today. One way to prevent egregious mistakes such as this is to subscribe to the channel so you never get taken to the market like a little piggy again. Instead, you'll be running yes all the way home with a fat stack of stones and some extra gold in your pocket. Hey look, I just made a French joke. On my server, rare stones sell for 100 to 200 gold depending on the stats, but many players will list it for less than the stones already listed regardless of how good it is. A profit can be made if you buy these stones for 90 to 100 gold and relist them for about 200 gold for players who know how valuable they are and want to max out their characters. There is no gold to be made on uncommon stones as they are worth less than the minimum value of 10 gold and they cannot be combined and sold in groups or packs like other materials. A quick note on stats versus percentages. Early in the game when your stats are low, you will benefit more by static modifiers such as health, mana, crit, accuracy, and evade, while later in the game your base stats will be much higher and these will become less effective, and instead the percentages will begin to scale with your power better than the static amounts. For example, 750 health is 5% of your total health if you only have 15,000 health. However, once you have 40,000 health, this is only 1.8%, so a stone that reduced damage from monsters by 3% would be like having an additional 1200 health when you are fighting monsters. Remember that you have 5 stone slots that you can quickly switch between without going into your inventory by pressing the period key, so it is always superior to have specialized builds, but it is not required to enjoy the game. Magic stones are the easiest way to modify many of your character's important attributes in order to create complex builds, while all the other bonuses you gain are much more permanent. Stones have the advantage of being added or removed free of charge, so they are just begging for you to use these extra slots. Some of these builds will see a huge difference right away, while others will require unlocking all 6 stones in epic rarity before they fully come online. Hybrid. This is the jack of all trades build. Focus on yellow stones to increase damage across all areas. Emphasize raw secondary stats that are always on, such as all damage, skill damage, crit damage, health, accuracy, evade, mana points, and crit evade, so you are equally effective in all situations while excelling at none of them. This is a build for people who can't be bothered to switch between builds as they are playing because they don't care to min-max a build for each specific loadout. This is a full damage build, but it can be played as a hybrid if you opt into using all yellow stones with defensive secondary benefits. Many junk stones will become viable in a hybrid build, so this may be the best path for free players as they are upgrading from one rarity to another. PvP. Since no stones directly increase or decrease PvP damage or reduction specifically, you will want to focus on defensive or offensive stones with a secondary buff for PvP, skill, bash, accuracy, evade, and all attack. Yellow, red, and indigo stones are your best bet. Even if you have good bonuses from purple or green stones, it is wasting the primary attribute, so try to avoid these when possible. For example, a purple stone with 3% monster damage, 12 evasion, and 1.6% PvP damage would not be as good as a red stone with 750 health, 12 evasion, and 1.2% PvP damage. The 750 health would keep you alive longer and increase the power of heals and potions, while the 3% monster damage would be totally useless in a fight against another player and does not make up for the 0.4% discrepancy in PvP damage reduction. Bosses. Without stones for boss buffs, just like PvP, you will be looking for this buff in the form of red, purple, and green stones, as these will help you with the monsters that the bosses summon as well. Bash and skill damage are good here as well, as you will be manually fighting bosses and not on full auto. Prioritize accuracy over evade and additional bonus stats because it is much harder to hit bosses with abilities and attacks, while their attacks are much harder to evade. Reduction of damage and crit evade should be prioritized as these will prevent the boss from one-shotting you if you get caught by their strongest abilities. Monsters. Since fighting monsters is a long grind, crit and crit damage really shine here. Purple stones with these modifiers or indigo stones with monster damage buffs make the best builds for clearing daily missions. Power. It is possible to equip red and blue stones for extra raw stats in order to increase your power level so that you're able to enter the next highest raid, boss raid, secret peak, or magic square area, as these are all bound to your power and not your level. You are looking for health, accuracy, evade, crit, and mana points here as the biggest power spike possible. This can allow you to get your first tier bonuses faster, but remember to switch over to the appropriate build once it starts so you are more effective. You will definitely need it with such little actual power in relation to the power of the enemies. Experience. Orange stones will offer you a bonus to experience gained for when farming experience, which you should be doing in the valleys or experience chamber to get the most bang for your buck. The best secondary stats are usually crit damage, monster, and skill damage. Bash is okay, but only if you are not AFK, as the AI has a hard time of doing combos in the correct order to trigger a bash. Since you should be fighting monsters that are about 10 to 15 levels lower than yours, there is no need to equip any defensive stats as they will only slow down your experience gain. PK removal. Green stones reduce monster damage and can help you when you have to clear a PK flag or if you are struggling with main story quest or any fights with higher level monsters. These will reduce damage from monsters and can be combined with purple stones to increase your clear speed if you don't need the extra damage mitigation. Great second stats are crit damage, and skill damage. Accuracy is better than evade as it is harder to hit monsters of a higher level, but even harder to evade their attacks. Mining. Mining doesn't get many bonuses from stones, but if you have a high evasion set of random stones, you will make it much harder for people or bots to attack you and interrupt your mining. Now let's talk about some of the ways that we can get extra stones to fill out these extra builds. You can gain 150 dragon tokens and spend them in Arcane Spirit Village for a rare magic stone of any type. Mystic Incense Burner will produce an epic or legendary stone after 25 failed attempts to combine rare or epic stones. The Sealed Magic Stone box contains all types of stones possible except for the orange stone. It can be bought from the clan shop, space-time shop, or earned from boss raids and expeditions. Sealed treasure chests contain red, blue, or purple stones. Farming monsters in the Magic Square Magic Stone Room will often drop stones. Magic Stone Mystery Box contains all stones except for the orange experience stones. Magic Stone Support Boxes contain red, blue, purple, or green stones. There are also Magic Stone Boxes which contain 10 stones of any color, all of the same color, except for the orange stones. This makes orange stones the rarest stone of all as it can only be gained by combining stones at random, using the 150 dragon tokens, or having them drop from the Magic Square Magic Stone Room. That is all I have for this Magic Stone guide. I hope you learned a lot. If you did learn something to help you in your quest, please drop a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you.